All right, let's talk about a big idea. What if everything in the entire universe, I'm talking the biggest black hole, the smallest particle inside of you, what if it all follows one single fundamental pattern? Today, we're diving into a model that suggests exactly that. It's called the single point theory. So just start with this question. Really let it sink in. What if the biggest, most stubborn problem in all of physics could be cracked open with a concept you already get, a whirlpool? It sounds almost too simple, right? But that's the key to this whole thing. The whole theory kicks off with this really powerful, kind of shocking analogy. The idea that a single vortex pattern, one that can scale up or down, is the basic organizing principle for, well, for everything, from the cosmic scale down to the quantum. You've seen this pattern before. In your sink, in a river, a fluid whirlpool pulls everything into a stable, swirling core. And when you look at an artist's concept of a black hole, it's doing the same thing, just with matter and light. The visual link is uncanny, and single point theory says, hey, that's not a coincidence. It's the same deep structural identity, just playing out at two completely different scales. So in this model, single point theory, or SPT, a black hole gets a total rebrand. It's called an amplitude whirlpool. And the key idea here is to stop thinking of it as a place with infinite density and start seeing it as a process, a self-sustaining inward flow where the very dynamics of reality itself are creating this persistent one-way funnel. All right, so now for the really wild part. We take that same cosmic whirlpool pattern and we shrink it. I mean, way, way down to the quantum level. And this is where the theory goes from interesting to, well, truly radical. And you have to ask, right? It's one thing to say a black hole looks like a big whirlpool, but can that same logic, that same pattern, really describe the fundamental particles that make up you and me? And here it is, the core claim. Just like a black hole is a stable vortex on that massive cosmic scale, SPT models a proton as a triadic proton vortex. It's the exact same principle, a self-reinforcing flow, but this time it's locked into a tiny, resonant structure at the quantum level. Same pattern, just an impossibly different scale. And the beauty of this idea really shines when you map the properties side by side. Look at this, it's an almost perfect one-to-one translation. What we feel as inward pressure in a water whirlpool becomes in SPT an inward amplitude gradient. The stability you get from a balance of forces, in a proton that's resonant phase locking. This isn't just a cute metaphor, it's a proposed universal rulebook. This is exactly what physicists mean when they talk about a model being elegant and scalable. It works for water, and it might just work for protons. Okay, so this leads to the next logical question, right? If everything is some kind of whirlpool, a vortex, then what's the water? What is the universal stuff that's actually flowing? Yeah, that question. A vortex of what? If particles and black holes are just patterns, then what's the medium they're patterns in? This takes us right to the very foundation of this entire theory. And the answer, according to SPT, isn't a substance at all. It's a process. It's called the primary cycle. Think of it as the fundamental frame rate of reality. And that number is its frequency. It's just staggering. It comes from the Planck time, which is the time it takes light to cross the smallest possible distance. In essence, it's the universe refreshing itself, 10 to the power of 43 times every single second. What this means is that reality isn't just sitting there. It's being actively built moment by moment. Each one of those primary cycles generates what they call a voxel, like the tiniest possible pixel of space. These cycles and voxels all interfere with each other, like billions of ripples on a pond. And where those ripple patterns become stable and self-reinforcing, they crystallize into the persistent structures we call matter. And this is where it all comes together. Because if this single, scalable process is actually what's happening, it offers a potential way to solve the biggest, most profound conflict in all of modern physics, uniting general relativity and quantum field theory. For nearly a century, physics has had this split personality. We've got general relativity, which is brilliant for describing the huge stuff, planets, galaxies, where space-time is smooth. And then we have quantum mechanics, which is perfect for the tiny stuff, particles, atoms, where reality is all choppy and probabilistic. The problem? They both work incredibly well, but they fundamentally contradict each other. They can't both be the final story. So here's SPT's elegant solution. Instead of trying to smash these two theories together, it suggests there's a deeper level, a single, fundamental process that, depending on how you look at it, can give rise to both sets of rules, one engine generating two very different-looking worlds. So how does that work?
Basically, by reframing everything. In this view, gravity isn't some fundamental force pulling things together. It's just the large-scale effect of those amplitude gradients. Particles aren't tiny little billiard balls. They're those stable, resonant modes of interference we talked about. And even space-time itself isn't the stage. It's just the averaged-out, coarse-grained history of all those countless primary cycles. Every concept we take for granted becomes an emergent property of something deeper and more unified. This all leads to a final and maybe the most profound shift in how you see the world. It's about a new way to think about what it means for anything or anyone to even exist. We all have this gut feeling of permanence. A rock is just a solid, static thing. It's permanent. But SBT says, no, that's kind of the common sense illusion. It replaces that idea with persistence. The rock isn't a static thing at all. It's a dynamic pattern, like a whirlpool in a river that holds its shape. It persists because that underlying pattern is stable, constantly being refreshed and maintained by the primary cycle. And this is a crucial point. It's not saying reality is an illusion or it isn't real. Far from it. It's saying reality is a structured result. It's the predictable outcome of a dynamic process that follows very specific rules. The patterns persist because the rules underneath are incredibly consistent, which leaves us with a final question to chew on. If everything we see and touch, from a star to a stone, is a persistent pattern being woven by this universal process, then what does that make you? You're not a permanent object. You're a dynamic, unbelievably complex, self-aware pattern of persistence. So, what pattern are you?